Hello everyone and welcome to Willow Cove Crafts, my channel here on YouTube where I talk about knitting and sewing and my other crafty endeavors. My name is Emily and today's video is going to be all about my top 5 favorite things that I have ever knit. As I mentioned, today's video is going to be a top 5 countdown of my absolute most favorite things I have ever knit. I have been knitting for about like 12-ish years, I would say, and over that time I have made a lot of things, and looking through my collection of hand knit items, there's definitely a few clear standouts, so I'm going to be sharing those with you today. I always like to hear what other people liked knitting, what other people get a lot of use out of, the favorite projects that people have, because I personally find that very inspiring and it gives me ideas of some things that I might want to make in the future. So I'm going to be sticking today with things that I have made for myself. Over the years, I've made a lot of gifts and have since given them away, so I no longer have those. So I'm going to stick to things that I made for myself that I still have in my possession. And I'm going to talk through the project, when I made them, what yarn I used, and why it's one of my favorites. I think looking at my stack, there's different reasons why these ones hold a special place in my heart, and yes, I'm very excited to share those with you today. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 5 in my top 5 list is the Whitehorse sweater by Caitlin Hunter. This is a circular yoke pattern that has this beautiful lacy, bobbly, cable-y texture around the top yoke, and then that transitions into a reverse stockinette body. I knit this out of Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Worsted in the Bamboo Heather colorway, and I went back and looked at my old Ravelry notes, and it looks like I knit this one in early 2021, I think from about January to March. And a couple call outs about this project is that I did modify the pattern. The original Whitehorse sweater is more cropped. It has 3/4 length sleeves, and they're a bit almost like balloon sleeves, not quite a full balloon sleeve, but there's some volume there. I modified mine to just be kind of more of a standard shape. I elongated the body and did just a regular sleeve. Yes, the reason this one is in my top 5 is because it is one I reach for a lot. I think we all definitely have those sweaters that we grab a bit more than the others. I really like this one because it's got a lot of interest to it. I think like taking a step back from it, it looks pretty plain, but then when you get up close, you see all of that intricate texture around the yoke. And I get a lot of compliments on this one. I feel really good in this one, and I feel really proud that this is something that I made. I really enjoyed working on this. And then the finished object, I think, is just really pretty. It's getting a bit blown out. I think the sweater is a bit more of a true yellow green. If I like, it keeps kind of like skewing a little brown in the camera, but that's maybe accurate. But yes, this is just one where, you know, I put it on and I feel just so proud that like I made this, and I think it's like just really cool and exciting, and I get a lot of compliments on it and a lot of, you know, the same sort of reactions from other people of like, you made that? And yes, top 5 I will say, I enjoyed working on this, but there were some rows that were not fun. There's all of these baubles. Can you even see? And then this part right here, these little bits, from what I remember, there was like these knit 5 together stitches, and that was also not fun. I think I used a crochet hook for those because it was like impossible to knit 5 stitches together. So anyways, I'm rambling. I highly recommend this pattern. It's one of the most beautiful yokes I've ever seen, and I get a lot of wear out of this one. Number 4 in my list is the Raina Shawl by Andrea Mowry. It's obviously a little bit big to show in the camera. I also knit this one in early 2021. I guess I was working on a lot of really great projects at that time, and I think part of the reason this is one of my favorite knits of all time is the yarn. So I knit this out of Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the white is called Fossil and the orange is called Ember or Embers, something like that. And I don't know if I've talked a ton here about how Brooklyn Tweed, the shelter in the loft, is probably my desert island yarn. It's one of my absolute favorites. I feel like it's like a bit of a controversial yarn. Like some people love it, like me, and some people absolutely hate it. It is a very unique yarn, so I can understand why it's a bit polarizing. It's very light and almost spongy. It's a really interesting texture if you've never felt the Brooklyn Tweed yarns. It breaks really easily if you just, like, it'll come apart pretty easily. Once you knit it up, it creates a pretty strong fabric. But I absolutely love this shawl. Part of the reason too, I mean, the pattern is gorgeous. It's got these alternating sections of brioche and garter, and then it's got this really neat kind of chevron brioche texture at the bottom. The shawl is one of my favorite shapes. So I've made a lot of shawls, and I always thought that I was more of a triangular shawl person, mostly because I really don't like semicircular shawls, like a true semicircle. I feel like when I wear those, it looks like a bib. And then a triangle is a little bit more like kerchief-like, and so I liked that better. And then this was the very first time I'd ever made like an elongated crescent, I guess you could say. Like, this shawl is very long and actually not that deep. And I found that I really liked that shape. I wore it a bit more like a scarf because it is not that deep. And yes, I find this shape really easy to wear. It tucks nice into coats. It looks very, very chic, in my opinion. And yes, the yarn just on top of it is like just so light and airy. It's super warm, but it's not heavy, and it just sits so nicely. And I cannot sing its praises enough. I love the Brooklyn Tweed yarn, and then this pattern was kind of a surprise. Again, I never made a shawl of this shape, and once I did, I realized that this is probably my favorite shawl shape. It's very easy to wear, and yes, I love it. Hands down favorite shawl I've ever made. And yeah, that Brooklyn Tweed yarn, if you've never tried it, I can't guarantee that you're gonna like it. Again, I've heard plenty of people say that they don't like it, but it is one of my personal favorites, and I think you should at least try and find some to like touch and squish at some point just to see what I'm talking about. It's a very unique, interesting, special yarn. And yeah, if I could only knit with one yarn for the rest of my life, I think it would be Brooklyn Tweed. Number 3 in my top 5 list is this lovely sweater. This pattern is called Hiro by Julia Farwell-Clay. And I had to go back and look at my Ravelry notes for this one because this is one of my oldest sweaters. And I knit this one in 2014. So it's weird to think that this sweater is almost 10 years old. It has held up so nicely. I still, to this day, wear this one a ton. I knit this one, again, 2014, the winter of 2014. It was around the time of the Winter Olympics that time around. And I really wanted, I had this like vibe in my head that I wanted to make like a Team USA ski chalet Winter Olympic type sweater. And this is what I came up with. I found this pattern. I cheated a little in that I did see this pattern in similar colors and I was like, that is it. That's what I want to make. So I used Cascade 220. I don't remember the colors. If I can find the colors, I will put them in the description below. But yes, I picked these like kind of really retro USA colors. I hope you know what I mean by that. Like the red is not, like it's more of an orangey red and the white is a bit more of a cream. Something about it just seems very 1980s to me. I was not alive in the 1980s, so I could be reaching there. But anyways, I really loved making this sweater. This was my first colorwork sweater. And it was a really fun exploration into that technique. I had made some colorwork hats before as a bit of a practice, but then this is my first foray into making a colorwork garment. It was a really fun pattern to do because it's quite simple colorwork. The floats are not too long. You're only ever doing 2 colors at a time. The yoke isn't super deep, and so you're only getting like a little bit of color work. And then the rest of the body is just plain stockinette. So I do recommend this pattern for a beginner colorwork knitter. If you want, you know, a pretty simple pattern to make your first colorwork garment, I think this is a really good one to try out. This one is in my top 5 again because it's almost 10 years old. Once I glean it, it looks brand new. It has held up really great over the years. And I still wear it a ton and it still evokes a lot of the like emotion that I was going for. I feel like I should be sitting in a ski chalet somewhere when I wear this sweater, and I just think it's really fun. And to this day, one of my favorite things to wear in the winter. Number 2 in my top 5 list is actually my most recent finished object. So if you have seen some of my previous videos, you may recognize this one. I don't know if this is just recency bias. Like, I feel like I hear a lot of people say that the favorite thing that they've ever knit is the thing they just finished. But I do truly believe that this one is gonna be one of my favorites for a long time coming. And that is my Culm pullover. This is a pattern by Fiona Alice, and like I said, I just finished this one. When did I finish this? January, February, very recently. And I used the We County Yarns Kinross 4-ply in the colorway Mary. And this is just this beautiful all over textured sweater. It's a little wrinkly, so excuse that. I do in fact wear my things and have a life to live, so things get wrinkled. But anyways, this one is in my top 5 list because It truly was a labor of love. It's a fingering weight sweater. This is actually my first fingering weight sweater, I'm pretty sure. I've knit with fingering weights in sweaters, but I'm always holding them with a mohair or something. This was my first true fingering weight sweater. And on top of that, it's all over texture, so it's, you know, pretty much the whole sweater is some variation of a knit purl pattern. And so this sweater just took a very long time, a lot of dedication and perseverance, and when it was done and I blocked it and I tried it on for the first time, it was just perfect. I loved the way it fit. I love the way it turned out, and all of that time and effort was totally worth it. And yes, I really love this one too because it looks store-bought. Not that I don't want to put out this idea that I think that the sign of a successful knit is that it looks like you bought it from the store. I definitely don't believe that. However, it does have its place, and it is nice to finish something and have it be just like so neat and clean and just looking like you bought it from a department store. So yes, definitely top 5. I again finished this one like maybe a month or 2 ago, and I've worn it at least 10 times. I truly love it, and yeah, I do really recommend that pattern. It will take you a while, but I do think the result is very much worth it. All right, and my number 1 thing that I have ever knit, this one was a bit of a no-brainer. I pretty easily picked out my top 5, and then I was trying to rank them, which was hard, but this one I knew was definitely going to be number 1. I love this thing. Favorite sweater I've ever made, and that is the Foyka sweater. This is a pattern by Linka Neumann. I knit this last year. Yes, January of 2022 was when I made this, and I knit it out of the Istex Alafosslopi yarn. I will go look up the colors that I used and put them in the description below. But this sweater, I cannot say enough wonderful things about this sweater. Again, I'm really into this like ski chalet sort of vibe. I do not ski at all. I'm terrified of it, but I do like this idea of sitting at the chalet, getting a hot cocoa, working on some knitting, and just like being in that atmosphere. I really like that. I went on a couple ski vacations with my family, and by ski vacations, again, I have tried skiing. I don't want people out there thinking that I have just made this judgment about skiing and that I don't like it. I have been skiing a couple times, and it's been terrifying every time, and I never have gotten over that terror. I've had a pretty significant injury from skiing, and then ever since then, I'm just super afraid of it. So I have been on some ski vacations with my family where I didn't ski, but I did sit in the hotel lobby, the chalet lobby, and just like read a book and had a hot drink, and it was lovely. That is how I would like to spend my time. Anyways, this fits that bill. It's so like thick and squishy. I loved doing the color work. This big turtleneck is so cozy. The sleeves are a little long and I cuff them, which is just even more cozy. It's big, bulky weight yarn, so it knit up super quickly. Again, not that that's the end all be all. I don't like this idea of rushing through our knits and trying to like churn things out super quickly, but it is like kind of satisfying when it does happen. So I knit this sweater in a month, which is really fast for me. And yeah, it's been about a year since I finished this, and I have worn it so many times, 30 times, 40 times. I don't know. I also really like this one because I think it is warm enough to wear instead of a coat on certain days. Obviously not on a super cold day, but if it's, you know, just kind of chilly, you know, 30s, 40s, I think that this sweater does a really good job of keeping me warm, and it looks a bit more fun than a coat. So I wear this one all the time. I will call out that this pattern, I believe, is only available in a book. So I bought, the book is called Wilderness Knits. Again, the designer is Linka Neumann. I believe I bought my copy off of Amazon. I will try and go look for it and add a link below, but I do not believe you can buy this pattern solo. There are a couple patterns in that book that I hope to make someday, so I just decided to buy the whole book. And yes, made this pretty immediately. So I love this sweater. She's my favorite. Sorry to all my other sweaters who are sitting over there and listening to me talk about how this one is my favorite. But yes, it's just the best. So yeah. That is my top 5 list of knits. I hope you enjoyed it, got some ideas for your own knitting. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite thing you've ever knit is. I would love to hear from you. If you liked today's video, don't forget to subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and I will talk to you all in a few weeks. Bye, everyone.